New wheels of change keep rolling, e-bikes and scooters flowing. Active minds and hearts are growing. Together we keep going. Together we keep going.
Okay, so picture this with me. A typical classroom, but instead of desks in rows, it's been transformed into this bustling micromobility obstacle course
Okay.
with like DIY traffic signs and kids changing bike tires like pros.
Well, wow, now that's a classroom I'd love to be in.
Right, way more fun than textbooks and lectures.
Absolutely.
And that's the surprisingly engaging world of New Wheels of Change,
Right.
which is this European project that's all about making sustainable transport second nature for young people. And that's what we're diving deep into today.
Great.
Their curriculum guide.
Their approach is really smart, I think. They get that it's not just about knowing how to ride a bike, it's bigger than that.
Yeah,
It's like they're trying to shift the whole culture around how we move around, starting with the youngest generation.
totally. And the hands-on stuff is genius. Like kids designing these mini traffic simulations,
Oh, wow.
turning their classrooms into a mini city.
I love that. It's like those model train sets, but instead it's urban planning in miniature.
Exactly. And the guide actually gives teachers step-by-step instructions
Oh, cool.
to do these activities with their classes. There are even games for learning traffic signs.
Wow.
And get this, instructions for making a pencil case out of an old inner tube.
That's amazing. Even that small thing, it shows you they've thought about the whole picture.
Right.
It's about resourcefulness and looking at everyday stuff and thinking, hey, how can we reuse this?
Yeah, and I have to admit, when I first heard New Wheels of Change, I thought, okay, bikes.
Right.
But it's way more than that.
Oh, yeah, they take a much broader view. One of the best things is how they bring it all together.
Yeah.
Walking scooters, e-mobility, even public transport. It's like they're giving kids this toolkit for navigating the real world.
It's like a mental map for getting around right.
Yeah.
But also understanding how all these different ways of getting around, how they connect and impact everything else.
Yes. It's that understanding that our choices have ripple effects,
Right.
Like even choosing to walk to school instead of...
Instead of the parent taxi.
Exactly. It's not just about convenience. It's about helping with traffic and air quality and even getting a little exercise in.
And the guide actually calls out that parent taxi thing as a problem.
Yeah.
They say that by shifting school culture towards active mobility, everybody wins.
Right. And there's research to back that up. Studies show how good active commuting is for you physically and mentally.
Makes you wonder how different would our cities look if we all grew up with that mindset.
Interesting question. Can you imagine a generation that doesn't just think about speed or convenience, but also factors in the community and the environment and their own well-being?
It'd be amazing. And they're not ignoring the rise of e-bikes and e-scooters either. They have activities about using them safely and even talk about the health benefits.
Yeah, they're not shying away from new technology, but they're making sure it's integrated responsibly.
Right. What really stood out to me was the focus on safety. It's everywhere in this guide.
As it should be, especially when we're talking about kids.
And it's not just wear a helmet. They go deep, like recognizing blind spots around trucks, navigating intersections, even the correct way to fall off a bike, which sounds kind of funny.
It does, but it's important. Knowing how to fall safely can make a big difference.
That's true. I'm starting to think I could use some of these tips myself.
I hear you. There's good stuff in there for everyone, even if you think you know it all.
For sure. So we're going to dive into some of the specific modules. But first, I'm curious, what were your initial impressions of this New Wheels of Change approach?
What struck me is how much fun they make it seem.
Yes.
They've really thought about how to make learning about sustainable transportation engaging for young people.
And not just a bunch of lectures and worksheets.
Exactly. It's active, it's creative, it's hands-on. It's about making it relevant to their lives and empowering them to make a difference. And I think that's really powerful.
Absolutely. I completely agree. So let's jump into the specifics. One of the modules that really caught my eye was the one on traffic signs, because as we all know, those are pretty crucial.
Yeah, you got to know what those signs mean.
Exactly.
Okay.
And what I love is that they don't just focus on memorizing shapes and colors.
Yeah.
They've come up with these really creative ways to make learning traffic signs interactive and engaging and even a bit competitive.
Oh, I love that. A little competition can be a great motivator.
Exactly. So let's start with Module 1, which focuses on traffic signs.
Sounds good. I'm ready to dive in. So they've broken it down into 5 levels.
5 levels, okay.
Each one builds on the one before it.
Got it.
And they start with the cautionary signs, but not by just throwing a ton of new images at the kids.
Right.
They start with familiar ones printed out, and they encourage teachers to ask these really simple but smart questions like, do you recognize this? Or What could happen where you see the sign?
I love that, getting them thinking about the context.
Exactly, instead of just
So
memorizing.
what comes next?
Well, then it gets really interesting.
Okay.
They have this puzzle activity where the classroom becomes a road. And it's divided into sections, and each group gets to design their section using cautionary signs.
Oh, that's fun.
Right. And the fastest group to place all their signs correctly wins.
I love that. It's collaborative and a little competitive.
Exactly.
And they're learning teamwork and problem solving without even realizing it.
Right. It's brilliant. And
Yep.
that's just level 1.
Wow, so what about level 2?
Level 2 is all about restriction signs.
Okay.
And they use quizzes to test comprehension.
Classic format, but it works.
It does, and it gives them that immediate feedback.
So they're not just left wondering if they got it right or not.
Exactly. Then they take it up a notch.
Okay, how so?
They suggest using a digital database of traffic situations, maybe photos or videos, and the kids have to analyze them
Of course.
and figure out which restriction signs should apply in each situation.
So it's like a real-world application.
Exactly. But then they bring it back to the classroom.
Okay.
But this time they transform the space into a dynamic intersection.
Oh, wow, I love that.
The kids get assigned different roles like police officers, other road users,
Oh, that's fun.
and they act out scenarios based on those restriction signs.
So they're really getting to see how those signs play out in a safe environment.
Exactly. It's all about making it real for them.
That's amazing. Okay, so level 3, what do they have up their sleeves for this one?
Level 3 is mandatory signs, and get this, they bring out the Pictionary.
Pictionary, that's awesome.
Right. It's such a fun way to test their recall and visual recognition.
And they have to communicate without speaking.
Exactly. And of course, they bring back the role-playing with the police officers giving out fines this time.
Oh, I love it.
It reinforces the idea that these signs are there for a reason.
No, there are consequences if you don't follow them.
Exactly. Okay, are you ready for level 4?
Hit me with it.
Prohibition signs, and you guessed it, bingo.
Of course. It's a classic for a reason.
Right. They have cards with pictures of the signs, and the teacher calls out explanations.
Such a simple but effective way to learn.
And then to make it even more hands-on, they turn the classroom into a construction zone.
A construction zone. Now that's creative.
I know, right? The groups have to compete to place the prohibition signs correctly.
Who knew learning traffic safety could be so competitive?
Right. It's all about making it fun and engaging.
Okay, so level 5, this has got to be the grand finale.
It is, and they really step it up.
Okay, how so?
Level 5 is informative and additional signs, and they encourage a more mature approach.
Okay.
They start with a discussion about the signs, their purpose, why they're important.
Get a little deeper with it.
Exactly. And they even bring in real-world statistics.
Oh, wow, that's smart.
Right. It shows them that these signs have real-life implications.
So it's not just some abstract concept.
Exactly. And for the grand finale, they take the learning outside.
So I love that.
With supervision, of course, the groups go on a hunting for signs activity in their neighborhood.
That's so cool, like a traffic sign scavenger hunt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They get to see those signs in their natural habitat.
And it probably makes them pay more attention to them in the future.
Exactly.
Wow, so they really thought of everything with this traffic sign module.
They really did. It's amazing how they took something that could be so dry and boring and made it fun and engaging.
And effective.
Exactly.
But that's just one module, right?
Oh, yeah, we're just getting started. There's so much more to explore in this new Wheels of Change guide.
Well, let's not waste any time then. What's next on our deep dive adventure?
Let's take a look at the module on traffic rules because those are pretty important for safe and responsible cycling.
Absolutely. And again, they go beyond the basics. For example, they spend a good amount of time on hand signals.
Which you'd be surprised how many people get wrong, even experienced cyclists.
It's true. But they don't just tell you what they are. They actually have the kids practice them,
Oh, that's great.
using their own bodies to mimic the movement.
Oh, I love that. Gets them moving and helps them remember.
Right. It's like a traffic safety dance party.
I love it. Okay, so they've practiced the hand signals. Now what?
Well, you know how they like to transform the classroom.
Let me guess they turn it into a roadway.
You got it. Cones for lanes and intersections, and the kids get to practice those hand signals while riding their bikes or scooters.
It's all about that real-world application, but in a safe environment.
Exactly. And to make it even more realistic, some kids act as drivers in stationary cars.
Oh, wow, that's smart.
So the cyclists can practice signaling their intentions.
That's brilliant. It's like a mini driver's ed program built right in.
I know, right? They really thought of everything. But they're not done yet. They also cover bike fit, particularly saddle height.
Which is so important. If your saddle height is wrong, it can make cycling really uncomfortable.
And even lead to injuries.
Exactly.
But they don't assume the kids know anything about it. They demonstrate how to adjust it using a bike and a volunteer.
Oh, that's good. Visual learners unite.
Right. And they even share that helpful tip.
You mean the one about your leg being almost fully extended with a slight bend in the knee when the pedal is at its lowest point?
That's the one. And then the kids get to try it themselves.
On their own bikes.
Yep. With supervision, of course.
Yep.
It's all about empowering them to take ownership of their equipment.
I love that. It's their bike. They should know how to adjust it.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But the practical tips just keep coming.
Okay, like what?
They talk about looking over your shoulder when turning,
Always important.
navigating roundabouts.
Which can be tricky even for experienced cyclists.
They are.
So how do they tackle that one?
Well, they start with visuals to explain how roundabouts work.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then, you ready for this?
Hit me.
They transform the classroom into a mini roundabout.
Of course they do. It's the new Wheels of Change way.
I know, right? Cones for the lanes, and the kids get to practice navigating it on their bikes or scooters.
I bet they have a blast doing that.
They do. And they even suggest adding drivers again to make it even more realistic.
It's like they're playing real-life Mario Kart, but with important safety lessons built in.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, but we haven't even gotten to the module I'm most excited about.
Oh, which one is that?
Bike repair and maintenance.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Every cyclist should know how to do basic bike maintenance.
Absolutely. It can save you a lot of headaches down the road.
And it can be really empowering to know how to fix your own bike.
Totally. So what do they start with?
The basics, like how to check tire pressure.
Which is something so many people don't even think about.
I know. And how to use a pump.
Which can be trickier than it looks if you've never done it before.
Right. But they make it approachable by letting the kids practice with different pumps on their own bikes.
Oh, I like that. Hands-on learning is key.
And then they move on to things like adjusting brakes and gears.
With clear instructions and illustrations.
Of course.
Yeah.
They don't want to scare anyone off.
And it's so helpful to see how it's all supposed to work.
Exactly. And then for the grand finale, they teach them how to fix a flat tire.
The holy grail of bike repair.
It's like a rite of passage for cyclists.
It really is. So how do they break it down?
Into manageable steps, of course. From removing the wheel to patching the tube with a repair kit.
They don't mess around.
They really don't.
Yeah.
But they also emphasize the importance of regular maintenance.
Like cleaning and lubricating the chain.
Exactly. Because preventing problems is always better than having to fix them.
So true. This module is basically a crash course in keeping your bike happy and healthy.
Exactly. And a happy and healthy bike means a happy and healthy cyclist.
Couldn't agree more. But you know it's just as important as knowing how to fix your bike.
What's that?
Knowing how to stay safe while riding it.
Huh?
Which brings us to the module on safety and protection.
Oh, yes. This one's packed with essential information.
It really is. They cover everything from the basics of helmets and reflective gear to more advanced stuff like navigating intersections and dealing with aggressive dogs.
It's like a masterclass in preparing young cyclists for the realities of riding in the real world.
Exactly. And they do it in a way that's engaging and empowering.
Okay, so let's dive into the specifics. What are some of the key takeaways from this module?
Well, one of the things they emphasize is the importance of understanding traffic signs and signals.
Which we talked about earlier.
Right. But it's so crucial they reiterate it here.
Makes sense.
They also dedicate a good chunk of time to the dangers of distracted cycling.
Which is a huge issue these days.
With smartphones and everything, it's so easy to get distracted.
So how do they drive that point home?
They have the kids do an experiment.
Oh, cool. What kind of experiment?
They have them ride a short distance while looking at their phone,
Okay.
and then ride the same distance while being completely present and aware of their surroundings.
And I'm guessing the difference is pretty noticeable.
Oh, yeah. It's eye-opening. Much more impactful than just being told it's dangerous.
Absolutely. They also talk about the importance of being visible to others, especially in low light or at night.
Which is so important for cyclists, especially when you're sharing the road with cars.
Right. They talk about wearing bright clothing, using lights and reflectors.
All those things that can make a big difference in terms of being seen.
And again, they make it hands-on with an experiment.
Oh, tell me more about this one.
They have the kids see how different clothing and reflectors affect their visibility in low light.
That's awesome. Seeing is believing.
Exactly. It makes it much more real for them.
Totally. Okay, so what other hazards do they cover?
Well, one that I think is really important is dooring.
Dooring.
Yeah, it's when a cyclist is hit by a car door opening into their path.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that sounds dangerous.
It can be really dangerous. and it happens more often than you'd think.
So how do you avoid it?
They teach the kids to ride a safe distance from parked cars and to use a hand signal to alert drivers.
Good tips.
And they even suggest practicing a quick stop maneuver.
Just in case.
Exactly. Because you never know when you're going to need to stop suddenly.
That's so true.
Okay.
Well, they also talk about the dangers of riding too close to the curb.
Which seems counterintuitive.
It does. You'd think staying close to the edge would be safer.
Right, but it's actually
Sure.
not, because you're more likely to encounter debris potholes, things like that.
Oh, that makes sense.
So they suggest riding a bit further out to give yourself more room to react.
Good advice.
And they even suggest practicing riding in a straight line, maintaining a consistent distance from the curb.
Which is harder than it sounds.
It is,
Yeah.
especially for younger kids who are still getting used to balancing.
Exactly.
And speaking of balance, that ties back into the earlier discussion about bike fit.
Oh, right, because if your bike fits you properly, it's going to be easier to balance.
Exactly. And a well-maintained bike is going to handle better too.
So it all comes back to taking responsibility for your bike and your own safety.
Exactly. It's all connected.
It is. So what else is in this safety module? It sounds really comprehensive.
It is. They cover navigating intersections, making eye contact with drivers, and like I said before, what to do if you encounter an aggressive dog.
Wow, they really have thought of everything.
They have, but they don't just focus on prevention. They also have a whole section on what to do if you're in an accident.
Oh, wow, that's so important.
It is, because even if you do everything right, accidents can still happen.
And it's important to know what to do in those situations.
Exactly. They cover assessing injuries, calling for help, and even basic first aid.
It's like a mini first aid course.
Right. And I was really impressed that they teach the kids how to contact emergency services.
That's huge. Knowing how to do that could potentially save a life.
It could. And they teach them how to describe their location accurately and provide basic information about what happened.
Empowering them to take action.
Exactly. This safety module really is top-notch.
It is. They've really gone above and beyond.
Okay, so we've talked about safety, but let's not forget about another really important aspect of cycling. Sustainability.
Ah, yes. Because cycling is not only good for you, it's good for the planet, too.
Exactly. And one module that really embodies this is the one on recycling.
Recycling. How do they tie that into cycling?
Well, they start by talking about what recycling is and why it's important.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then they dive into the specifics, like what materials can be recycled.
Like paper, plastic, glass, metal?
Exactly. And how to recycle them properly.
Because it's not always as simple as just throwing everything in the recycling bin.
Exactly. And they even recommend a field trip to a recycling center.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Right. Seeing it in action can be really impactful.
Totally. But they don't stop at sorting recyclables.
What else do they do?
Remember that cool pencil case made from an old inner tube?
Oh, yeah.
They introduce upcycling as a creative way to give new life to old things.
I love that. Turning trash into treasure.
Exactly. And they even provide instructions for other upcycled crafts.
Like what?
Turning old tires into planters.
Oh, cool.
Or using fabric scraps to make handlebar streamers.
Those are great ideas. So they're really encouraging the kids to think outside the box.
And to see the value in things that might otherwise be thrown away.
Exactly. It's about fostering a sense of resourcefulness and environmental responsibility.
Which are such important values to instill in young people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially these days.
So true. Okay, so we've talked about safety, sustainability. What else is there?
Well, one module that I found really fascinating was the one on the history of bicycles.
Oh, that's a good one. Bicycles have such a rich history.
They do. And they've played such an important role in shaping our world.
In so many ways. From transportation to social change to environmental activism.
It's amazing to think about.
So how do they approach this topic in the guide?
Well, they start with a timeline of bicycle history.
Oh, cool. From those early walking machines.
To the sleek, modern bikes we know and love today.
It's incredible how far they've come.
It really is. And they delve into the social impact of bicycles, too.
Like their role in women's suffrage.
Exactly. And they talk about how bicycles have been used in environmental activism.
It's a reminder that something as simple as a bicycle can be a powerful tool for change.
Absolutely. And they also explore the cultural significance of bicycles worldwide.
From Dutch cargo bikes to Indian rickshaws.
They really cover it all. And then they ask the kids to design their dream bikes.
Oh, that's fun.
Right. They get to imagine bikes of the future.
With all the bells and whistles they can dream up.
Exactly. It's a great way to tap into their creativity.
And to get them thinking about the future of transportation.
Exactly. This history module really is a reminder that bicycles are more than just machines.
They're symbols of human ingenuity, resilience, and that constant desire for a better, more sustainable world.
Beautifully said. Okay, so speaking of the future of transportation, let's talk about the module on e-mobility.
Oh, yes. E-mobility is huge right now.
It is, and it's only going to get bigger.
So what do they cover in this module?
Well, they start by discussing the different types of e-mobility vehicles.
From e-bikes and e-scooters to electric cars and buses.
Exactly. And they talk about the pros and cons of each type.
Because there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Exactly. And of course, they talk about the environmental benefits.
Like reduced emissions and improved air quality.
Exactly. And they also highlight the technological advancements that are making e-mobility possible,
Like battery technology and charging infrastructure.
which are constantly evolving.
It's an exciting time to be following this field.
It really is. And you know how they like to incorporate creativity into these modules?
Let me guess they have the kids design their own e-mobility solutions.
You got it.
I knew it. They're probably coming up with some really cool ideas.
I'm sure they are. This e-mobility module really does paint an optimistic picture of the future of transportation.
One that's efficient, sustainable, and accessible to all.
And speaking of accessible to all, let's move on to the module on active mobility.
Active mobility.
Yes. It's about incorporating physical activity into our daily lives.
Oh, I like that.
So it's not just about cycling, it's about walking, scootering, even just using public transportation in a way that involves some walking.
It's about making conscious choices about how we move our bodies,
Exactly. And they talk about the benefits of active mobility,
which are numerous.
both for our physical and mental health and for the environment.
It's a win-win.
Exactly. And they offer practical tips for incorporating active mobility into our daily lives,
Like what?
like choosing to walk or cycle for those shorter trips instead of automatically hopping in the car.
Such a simple change, but it can make a big difference.
It really can. And to make it even more tangible, they have the kids map out their own neighborhoods.
Oh, that's a great idea.
They pinpoint safe, accessible areas where they can easily incorporate active mobility into their routines.
So they're learning about their community and getting some exercise at the same time.
Exactly. And they also encourage the kids to brainstorm ways to promote active mobility in their schools and communities.
Oh, wow. So they're not just learning about it. They're becoming advocates for change.
Exactly. They're thinking about how to make their communities healthier and more sustainable.
It's inspiring.
It really is.
Okay.
So we've talked about active mobility. What about shared mobility?
Shared mobility. What's that?
It's about moving away from that idea of individual car ownership and embracing more collaborative and sustainable solutions.
Like car sharing.
Exactly. And bike-sharing, ride-hailing services, even public transportation.
It's about recognizing that we don't all need to own our own cars.
Exactly. And that there are other options available.
Which can be more affordable, more convenient, and better for the environment.
Exactly. And they challenge the kids to design their own shared mobility solution.
Oh, that's a great idea, getting those creative juices flowing.
Right. It's about imagining a future where transportation is more equitable and sustainable.
I love it. So they're not just learning about the world as it is, they're imagining the world as it could be.
Exactly. And they're realizing that they have the power to help create that world.
It's so empowering. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but there's one more module I want to touch on.
What's that?
Traffic etiquette.
Ah, yes. Because knowing the rules of the road is one thing, but being a courteous and respectful cyclist is just as important.
Exactly. It's about going beyond just following the rules.
Right. It's about creating a culture of understanding and cooperation on the road.
Because we're all in this together.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So what are some of the specific things they emphasize in this module?
Well, they talk about the importance of yielding to pedestrians,
Always
signaling your intentions clearly,
so important.
maintaining a safe following distance,
Right.
and avoiding distractions.
All those things that can make a big difference in terms of safety and courtesy.
Exactly. And they have the kids practice these things too.
Of course.
Yeah.
How do they do that?
Through role playing.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Right. It allows them to see things from different perspectives.
And to practice those interactions in a safe environment.
Exactly.
This traffic etiquette module really is a great reminder that being a responsible cyclist is about more than just knowing the rules
It's about being respectful of everyone sharing the road.
and creating a safer, more enjoyable experience for everyone.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Okay, so we've talked about traffic etiquette now. What about route planning?
Ah, yes.
Hmm.
Because once you know how to ride your bike safely and responsibly, you need to know where you're going.
Right. You don't want to just hop on your bike and start pedaling without a plan.
Exactly. So how do they approach route planning in this module?
Well, they start by talking about the factors you need to consider.
Like distance terrain traffic conditions.
Exactly. And they encourage the kids to think about any interesting stops they might want to make along the way.
Oh, that's a good one. Because cycling can be about exploration and discovery.
Absolutely. It's not always just about getting from point A to point B.
Right. And they introduce the kids to different tools and resources that can help with route planning,
Like what?
like online mapping services,
Okay.
bike-specific navigation apps, even good old-fashioned paper maps.
Oh, wow. They really cover all the bases.
They do. And then, of course, they challenge the kids to plan their own cycling adventures.
I love that, putting their newfound knowledge to the test.
Exactly. This route planning module really is a great reminder that cycling isn't just about getting from point A to point B
It's about the journey itself.
and the experiences we have along the way.
Beautifully said. Okay, so we've talked about planning our routes, but what happens when we reach our destination?
We need to find a place to park our bikes.
Right, which is why they have a whole module dedicated to bicycle parking.
It might seem like a small detail, but it's actually really important.
It is, especially when it comes to preventing theft.
Exactly. And making sure that bikes are parked in a way that doesn't obstruct pedestrians or create hazards.
Right, because nobody likes a sidewalk hog.
So true. So what do they cover in this module?
Well, they start by talking about the importance of secure parking,
Okay.
and they explore different bicycle parking options.
Like bike racks and indoor storage facilities.
Exactly. And they encourage the kids to choose the safest and most appropriate option for their needs.
Because not all bike parking is created equal.
Right. And then they tap into their creativity by challenging them to design their dream bike parking solutions.
Oh, I love that. Because who knows more about what cyclists need than cyclists themselves?
Exactly. So they're thinking about things like security, accessibility, convenience,
It's about making their communities more bike-friendly.
which is so important.
Okay, so we've talked about parking now. Let's move on to a topic that's near and dear to my heart. Cycling and health.
Oh, yes. Cycling is such a great form of exercise.
It is, and it's good for both your physical and mental health.
So how do they approach this topic in the module?
Well, they delved into the science behind it.
Oh, cool.
They talk about how cycling can improve cardiovascular health, strengthen muscles, boost endurance, and help maintain a healthy weight.
All those amazing benefits.
I know, right? And they don't just focus on the physical benefits either.
What else do they talk about?
They also highlight the positive impact cycling can have on mental health.
Like reducing stress and anxiety.
Exactly. And improving mood sleep quality,
Yeah.
even boosting cognitive function.
Wow. Cycling really is a wonder drug.
It really is. And they encourage the kids to track your progress,
That's a great idea. How do they suggest doing that?
either by using fitness trackers or just a simple journal
Okay.
to record their distance, how long they rode, how they felt before, during, and after their rides.
That's awesome because it helps them to see the connection between their physical activity and how they feel.
Exactly. It's about making those benefits more tangible.
I love it. This module is a great reminder that taking care of our physical and mental health is so important.
And that cycling can be a fun and effective way to do just that.
Absolutely. But you know what's even more fun than cycling alone?
What's that?
Cycling with friends.
Oh, yes. And that brings us to the module on cycling in a group.
Which can be a really rewarding experience.
It can,
Yeah.
but it also comes with its own set of challenges and considerations.
So how do they tackle this topic?
Well, they start by talking about the importance of communication.
Okay.
Because when you're cycling in a group, you need to be aware of what everyone else is doing.
Right. You don't want to cause an accident.
Exactly. So they talk about things like using hand signals to communicate your intentions, calling out hazards, and making sure everyone is staying together.
All important things to keep in mind.
They also emphasize the importance of choosing a route that's appropriate for everyone in the group,
Right, because you don't want to pick a route that's too challenging for some riders.
or too easy for others.
Exactly. It's about finding a balance.
And they encourage the kids to practice riding in a group in a safe environment.
Like a park or a bike path.
Exactly. Somewhere where they can get used to riding close together and communicating effectively.
Great advice. This module is a good reminder that cycling in a group can be a lot of fun,
They can.
but it's important to be prepared and to ride responsibly.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about cycling in a group now. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about the module on cycling and digital literacy.
Cycling and digital literacy. That's an interesting combination.
It is, but it makes sense when you think about it. Technology is everywhere these days.
And it's only becoming more integrated into our lives.
Exactly. And cycling is no exception.
So how does technology play a role in cycling?
Well, there are all sorts of cool gadgets and apps that can enhance a cycling experience,
Like what?
like navigation apps, fitness trackers, even apps that connect you with other cyclists.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Right. But they also emphasize the importance of using technology responsibly.
Especially when it comes to things like personal data and online privacy.
Exactly. They remind kids about the importance of strong passwords, being careful about what they share online, and recognizing scams.
All those essential online safety tips.
Exactly. But they go even deeper than that.
Oh, how so?
They also explore the ethics of technology in cycling,
Oh, wow, that's interesting. Like what?
like the impact of e-bikes on trail access,
Okay.
or how the data collected by cycling apps might be used.
Those are really important conversations to be having.
They are. And it's great that they're encouraging kids to think critically about these issues.
Absolutely. It's about helping them become informed and responsible digital citizens.
Exactly. And it's not just about the digital world either. They also have a whole module on the environment and climate change.
Of course. Because those are huge issues that are directly relevant to transportation.
Exactly. And they don't shy away from the big questions. They talk about the science of climate change, the impact of transportation on the environment, and the importance of reducing our carbon footprint.
It's about connecting the dots for them, showing them how their choices about transportation have these ripple effects.
Exactly. And they don't just leave them feeling overwhelmed and powerless either. They also talk about solutions,
Like what?
like switching to more sustainable modes of transportation.
Like cycling.
Exactly. And using public transportation, walking and cycling, more often advocating for better infrastructure.
It's about empowering them to be part of the solution.
Exactly. And they also encourage them to get involved in their communities.
Like organizing bike-to-school days or advocating for safer bike lanes.
Exactly. It's about taking action and making their voices heard.
I love that. It's about showing them that they have the power to make a difference.
Absolutely. And that's what this whole New Wheels of Change program is all about, really.
It's about empowering young people to create a more sustainable and equitable future.
Exactly. Through cycling and active mobility.
It's a brilliant program. I'm so impressed by everything they've put together.
Me too. It's comprehensive, well-researched, and engaging.
And fun. Let's not forget about fun.
That's true. They've managed to make learning about sustainable transportation fun.
Which is no easy feat.
It really isn't.
Yeah.
So to wrap things up, I think we can both agree that New Wheels of Change is an incredibly valuable resource.
Absolutely. For educators, parents, and anyone who cares about creating a more sustainable future.
Exactly. It's a reminder that even small changes can make a big difference.
And that young people have a crucial role to play in shaping the world we want to live in.
Beautifully said. Well, that's all the time we have for today, but we hope this deep dive has inspired you to learn more about New Wheels of Change and to get involved in promoting sustainable transportation in your own communities.
Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.
New wheels of change keep rolling, e-bikes and scooters flowing, active minds and hearts are growing. Together we keep going, together we keep